So as if the combat sports world couldn't get any weirder, we now have a confirmed matchup taking place between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, taking place at an unspecified date and an unspecified place. It's very interesting to me that this fight is now being made, that Tyson Fury would agree to a fight like this and that Ngannou would agree to a fight like this. I think for both guys, there's a lot of legacy being put on the line. It does make sense from a lineage standpoint. Tyson Fury is probably the heavyweight king in boxing. We could say that right now, right? I would have liked to have seen Tyson fight more guys like an Usyk, like a Joshua. Hopefully that happens in the future, but right now I think he's kind of the people's champion in terms of, well, and actually the real champion in terms of just what people would look to for the most popular, the most skilled, the most technical, and the most talented heavyweight on the planet. And then you have Francis Ngannou, who was a force to be reckoned with when he was in the UFC. He was tearing through contenders. He had this real aura about him, kind of like a Mike Tyson, where he could finish you in one punch. He didn't necessarily always need to rely on the most amount of technicality to get the job done. Now both those guys are meeting in the ring. Could be a belt of the line, could be something else. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be an exhibition. We don't really have a lot of information. I actually have it pulled up on my Instagram here. And this is from the Schnoz himself, Ariel Helwani. Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou will take place under the official rules of professional boxing, with 3 judges ringside adopting the 10-point must system. Both fighters, however, are promising to meet in the middle of the ring, go to war, and win by knockout in devastating fashion per release. It will also take place in a regulation boxing ring under the standard boxing rules. And so apparently now, this is the last time I read up on this video was yesterday, but apparently now we have an actual location. So I stand corrected, October 28th in Saudi Arabia, which makes sense because Saudi is kind of now seeming like the combat sports center of the world. They love themselves a nice combat sports event over there, but seems like a bizarro world now that we're living in, huh? I don't really know, in all truthfulness, how to feel about a matchup like this. I don't know if it's good for the sport, if it's bad for the sport, if long-term it's going to hold any real weight. I think if we're talking these guys' legacies, it certainly will. Because you think about it, if either of these guys gets a win, let's just say Ngannou knocks Fury out, there's more on the line in terms of broad implications than just saying that someone's the heavyweight king or someone's the king of MMA heavyweights. This is who's going to be quite literally the baddest man on the planet. And I think that they'll market the fight this way. At least that's what I would do if I were a promoter. I would say, okay, this is for all the dice. These guys are going to go in there. They're going to scrap it out. And whoever comes out on top, these are 2 guys, again, that have both really, really represented their sport well. Whoever comes out on top is going to be the heavyweight king of the entire world across combat sports. So obviously Ngannou has to deal with the PFL. They're okay with kind of having an Adam 22 situation where if Ngannou steps out and wants to have sex with other promotions, he can and do his thing. Dude, I'm sorry. All right, you know what? This is not the channel for that. I have another channel. We could talk about that there. I don't hate the fight, but I also, something feels weird about it to me. I used to do this exercise where I would put 2 combat sports athletes together in my head and kind of imagine how it would go down. So for instance, with one fight, I'd have Floyd Mayweather versus, let's just say, GSP, and they would fight in a 12-round boxing match. This is kind of what that feels like. It's like, all right, well, what if we have 2 of these gigantic behemoth heavyweight dudes that are known for dominating their opponents? What if we have them come together and have their 2 styles really clash? Because Tyson, up until those last couple of Deontay Wilder fights, I don't know if he's necessarily been known for his power, more so for his technicality, more so for his footwork, his movement. That's insane for a guy of his size, let alone a heavyweight. And then, of course, Francis Ngannou is known for his overall violent orchestra that he puts on, that he orchestrates in the cage. And I know this fight kind of makes sense, right? Because again, for all the aforementioned reasons we talked about, this is an interesting matchup. It has implications on the line, but I wish I could kind of pinpoint, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video on this. I wish I could pinpoint what about this fight just feels so weird to me. Maybe it's the direction that the sport of boxing is going, but I enjoy influencer boxing. I don't think it's that. I think it's more so that this is 2 guys at the top level, 2 guys who have been at the pinnacle of their sports doing something like this. I think if this were a Jake Paul versus KSI fight, I'd be a lot more accepting. And before everyone in the comments says, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I know I'm going to get so many people mad with this hot take. Just hear me out for a second. I would expect this more from the influencer scene, because that's where we kind of match people up willy-nilly. And while there have been crossover events like McGregor, Mayweather, like this before, I had that same feeling about that bout as well. It just kind of felt like, I've used this analogy before, it kind of felt like a drunken weekend, where it's like, all right, cool, that was fun for the moment, but why did I really watch that? I always like to look at fights on a metric of how they'll help the scene long term and what they set up. So this fight, as I said, has the building blocks of a cool story behind it, right? It's for all the marbles. Whoever steps in there and comes out victorious is the baddest man on the planet. It also has the intrigue of both these guys' styles meshing well together. It'll probably be a fun lead up, a fun matchup, but there's no ranking on the line. I don't know if there's a belt on the line yet. If there is a belt, what does Francis Ngannou do then? If Tyson wins over Ngannou, do we hold that in the same regard as if Ngannou wins over Tyson? I think these are the things that we have to ask. What is the long-term effect of a fight like this? And maybe that's where I'm getting the empty feeling in the pit of my stomach. Fuck, man, I made a video talking about Luke Thomas's thoughts on the Elon versus Zuckerberg fight, which there'll be a video coming out about in the near future here. But I think if you want to look at an aspect or an example, a better example, I should say, of the point that he was trying to illustrate, which is that combat sports fans these days, specifically in MMA and the UFC, aren't getting enough fun matchups, that we have to do these kind of carnival matchups. I'd say look at this fight. I just also think that this fight takes away a little bit of the momentum that regular boxing has been kind of coming back with as of late. I just think we should be very responsible with the way that we talk about this fight, the way that we handle the aftermath of this fight. I don't think that belts should be on the line when you talk about this. I think it should be something more like an exhibition. Perhaps it doesn't go towards either of their records. That's something that I would rather see, is kind of just the way the old UFC used to govern itself, which was the best from each martial arts discipline coming together and fighting in a cage. Well, this would just be the kind of same thing, right? You have a representative from boxing, you have a representative from MMA. They're going to go in, they're going to duke it out for one night, and that'll be it. And usually I'm very liberal with the way that I like to mix together combat sports. You guys that have watched the channel for a while know this, but this time around, I think the stakes, who's involved, what's on the line, just a little bit too great to be throwing implications, throwing belts around, and things of that nature. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Am I tweaking? Am I not? It has been your boy, the Combat Consultant. Of course, the soundboard god, Jacob Koopman. I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.